let's transition over to our AFC East divisional breakdown. This one's interesting. On the same day as quarterback rankings, obviously, 2 of my top 10 are in this division. 3 of your top 10 are in this division.
Crazy.
And then all the way down in this division, you also have Mac Jones. But anywho, we're going to start by just looking at the offenses and defenses of both of these teams, and then we'll get to what we think the standings of this AFC East division look like at the end of the season, heading into the playoffs. Obviously, the big news within this division all offseason long was the Aaron Rodgers trade to New York with the Jets. Some of the pieces that have come along to the Jets as well. Outside of that, man, again, it seems like the beginning of free agency was so long ago, but the Dolphins bring in what? Jalen Ramsey, right? Ramsey. So you have, or they, whatever they do, they get Jalen Ramsey. Did anything else major happen within this division?
The Dolphins upgraded in the margins, in my opinion. So they upgraded the defense a little bit. They even brought in David Long Jr. from the Titans. Deshaun Elliott, safety from the Lions. But, I mean, these guys aren't, like, world beaters, right? These guys are just marginal moves. I think the Dolphins will be a lot better because of moves like
Braxton
that.
Berrios from
Braxton
Miami.
Berrios, chosen, I don't even know what his name is. Chosen one, or, Rob Anderson. That's what his name used to be.
Robbie Chosen.
Yeah, Robbie Chosen. Yeah, that's him. They picked both of them up. That'll solidify their wide receiving core.
That's right. They got Bradley Chubb at the middle of last year.
Yeah, obviously a good mid-season pickup. But Jalen Ramsey's the biggest, I would say, aside from Aaron Rodgers. I mean, had Juju to New England. That's not huge. Obviously, the Jets picking up some of Aaron Rodgers' guys. And then the Bills really didn't do anything crazy, right? They're another team that just kind of tried to fill the margins, add some depth.
Which isn't good enough, man. Like, we talk about this all the time with teams getting better. You know who I would almost compare the Bills to? Hold on a minute. The 76ers. It almost feels like that, right? Can't get out of the second round, right? Everyone else in your division and your conference is getting better. You're staying the same. Tell me when I'm wrong. Tell me when I'm wrong.
The main thing I'm looking at with the Bills, man, they get better just by getting healthy, right? So you look at who they lost in season last year: Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Matt Milano at one point. Tre'Davious White was gone most of the season. Von Miller was gone most of the season.
It's a fair point.
So you add, 4 or 5 All-Pros back to their defense. Hopefully that will be a little bit more stable for them this year with Sean McDermott. But the offense, they could have added something else there. I mean, they added the running back out of New England. Is it Damian Harris? Is that the one that they added?
Yes.
Damian Harris. So he's looking to back up James Cook, it looks like, at least from their depth chart.
James Cook, Damian Harris, Latavius Murray, and Naheem Hines.
It's like, that's
I'm sure all of them will make the team.
But like,
and they drafted the kid, the tight end as well, Kincaid. I forgot.
Kincaid, which is a solid pickup. But Dawson Knox wasn't like terrible, right? He was a solid tight end. So they added a few pieces there, but once again, to your point, it wasn't something overwhelming that makes you say,
not when
the Bills are going to be Super Bowl champions this year. Like, no, I'm not to that point with them.
Here's the way I view the Bills, and I guess they're kind of the first team we can dive into within this division for me, right? Because they've been controlling this division and winning this division for the last couple of years now. And the way I look at them is they've been chasing you've been chasing Mahomes, right? They've been chasing Mahomes for the last couple of years in Kansas City in your conference. Now Burrow and Cincinnati has surpassed you. So last year they were chasing both of those teams, right?
Yeah.
Now within your division, another team has said, hold on, we're now chasing Mahomes and Burrow as well. So it's like you can't get past in your own division when you haven't even reach top 2 of your conference. And when you're not doing anything to improve, again, I get getting healthy on the defensive side is huge for them. And you're right. But their defense was still pretty good last year, regardless.
Yeah, that's fair.
The common denominator is going to be your quarterback protecting the football in big moments. Can you run the football? Because I think that's something else that Buffalo struggles with as well. Not Josh Allen running the football, but just getting the ground game going.
Yeah.
And beyond Stephon Diggs, what do you have to work with?
Yeah.
Gabe Davis, Khalil Shakir, Trent Sherfield, Dawson Knox, a rookie tight. Scotty, it's not good enough when you look at what Cincinnati has going on. When you look at what Kansas City continues to do year in and year out, even when they lose a Tyreek Hill, it's not good enough. So that's the way I view the Bills, man. They're getting passed by in their own division when they've been so laser focused on catching people outside of their division as well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. There's going to be no time to rest for the Buffalo Bills, right? Where you used to look at their division and say, "Oh man, they'll get 4 wins right against the Patriots." Mind you, they've struggled at times with the Patriots themselves, but and then you look at the Jets without Aaron Rodgers with Zach Wilson,
right?
A lot different, right? So there are no automatic wins in this division at all across the board. I would say all these teams are going to be very competitive. Even the Patriots, who I'll give you a little precursor, they're at the bottom of every ranking that I have here.
Shocker.
They're going to be a competitive team, though. I do believe that. I think the defense will be sturdy. I think the offense will be makeshift. It's Mac Jones. It's not going to be great, but it'll be enough to be competitive. They'll be able to run the football. They still have Bill Belichick, right? But yeah, to your point, I just don't see any automatic wins in this division. And it's going to be a knock 'em out, drag 'em out fight. And we got to see how Josh Allen can handle that type of pressure coming from his own division, not just the conference, and trying to keep up with Kansas City.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. And so when you're looking at these defenses, let's start there with the defenses.
Yeah.
Since it's a little bit more of the boring side of the ball, right? For conversation's sake, I would ask you this. We don't have to rank them 1 through 4, right? We don't have to give X, but which defense do you think is the best within this division? Because they're all pretty good in their own ways. That is the strength of the New England Patriots. And when you're coached by a head coach like Bill Belichick, who's defensive minded, you're always going to be in this conversation. Miami, you view them as this sexy, high flying type of offense.
They've got
playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, dude, and they were pretty good last year without Jalen Ramsey as well. The Bills you mentioned getting healthy are a top 6 unit, probably top 5 unit when healthy. And the Jets, with all that young talent, might be the best defense in this division when full. Who do you think has the strongest unit on that side of the ball?
I would honestly go with the Jets, just based on what they were able to do last year. They were a top 10 unit last year, right? Maybe even top 5. I would have to go and look at the numbers specifically. But nonetheless, they were a top unit in defense last year. They have 2 lockdown corners, which is huge. They have a CB1 that is going into his 2nd season, being an all-pro. And
he's already guaranteed top 3 or 5 cornerback.
So immediately when you're playing the Jets, your wide receiver 1 is going to have the toughest matchup that they could possibly have throughout the season with Sauce Gardner. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, they have everything they need. They just locked up Quinnen Williams at the D tackle spot.
Good linebackers.
Good linebackers across the board. CJ Mosley. They got a stacked defense. And the thing about the Jets, the reason that I'm going to go ahead and prop them up over the Buffalo Bills defense, because I would slate Buffalo Bills as number 2 going into this season. It's the trajectory. This is a younger defense. This defense is going to get better. That is a defensive head coach that's going to be in his 2nd season, right, with this unit. So I expect him to not only be as good as last year, but even better with a competent offense on the other side of it. The Buffalo Bills, they're still going to be top 10 defensive unit, in my opinion. They're getting healthy, getting guys like Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde back, right? Those are huge get-backs. Von Miller adding back to the pass rush. But I just
Leonard Floyd too.
I can't put them over the Jets and what they're doing. They've built it from the draft, right? And they've added some free agents here and there, but they mostly built it from the draft. They have a head coach that's focused on that side of the ball. And I think that's going to be their strong suit, even with Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, dude, they bring in Adrian Amos as well.
Yeah,
right.
Safety help.
It's a shame Chuck Clark goes on the IR. They had brought him in as well. Like The Jets are stacked. They're loaded. They're young. They're fast. You know what they remind? Dude, they were a hard-nosed defense last year. When you watched the Jets and they hit like they were just ferocious. Yeah, like they were very, very good, man. And that's my thing. Not just the upside and the youth to this team that's already so talented to put them over Buffalo. I go back to last year and I go back to like week 14 when the Jets were somehow not out of the playoff race. And you're looking at them hold teams to 9 and 11 and 12 and whatever the hell they're holding these teams to, 13. And it was like, dude, if they didn't have you and me playing quarterback for them last year, they would have been a wild card team. That's how dominant this side of the ball was for them. So to add that on the other side of now, maybe a high scoring type of offense, it makes you wonder what they can be when maybe they can just pin their ears back and get after you, having Sauce back there, having some of these safeties back there as well. The Jets are number 1 for me. The Bills are number 2. I do agree with you. Like I said, you mentioned Von Miller. They also brought in Leonard Floyd. They have very good linebackers. They have good secondary play. They're a very, very tough.
Another defensive-minded head coach, Sean McDermott. Yeah,
right,
they're
exactly.
Be right
so I do really, really like the Bills unit. There, you mentioned top 10. They're probably higher, man. I mean, they're probably like top 6, 7. It just so happens the Jets might be like top 4 or 3. Like that's how good this defense could be this year. Would you put Miami's defense over New England's?
I am going to put them over New England.
From a talent perspective.
It's very close. And I will say the Miami Dolphins probably have the more attractive names per se. Judon had an incredible season for New England last year. He's crazy on the outside for them. But you look at the Miami Dolphins, you have the tandem of Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey on the outside. That's always a huge calling card for me, is just having that CB duo. When you have 2 CB1s on your roster, that just makes a huge difference, a la the Philadelphia Eagles. They added Deshaun Elliott just for some safety help there. Javon Holland, he had a great season last year. Bradley Chubb, they add David Long Jr. to the linebacking core. Jalen Phillips is another just insane guy off the edge. Just
Christian Wilkins.
They got some talent there. It's not to sleep on the New England Patriots. I don't want to take anything away from them. It's more or less
the Patriots are definitely more defensive minded. Yeah, 100%. I think their you would probably make an argument that they're more defensive minded. Their scheme's going to be better. Blah blah blah. Yeah. The talent though for Miami is kind of what does it for me.
Like, who's going to get me turnovers? Who's going to get me sacks? That's what I'm looking at between these two defenses, and that's the type of defense I would prefer.
I agree, man. So we both agree on the defensive side of the ball. Let's get over to the offense before we get into our standings. Okay. Offense. Let's start number 4, the New England Patriots. We
Mac Jones.
Push them to the side. We don't even have to have a conversation, man. That's the scary part. It's not even just Mac Jones.
Yeah.
They just don't.
They don't even have a wide receiver 1
anywhere. TikTok boys, their wide receiver 1. They paid Devontae Parker. You have Ramondre Stevenson, who's a very good back. But the thing about New England running the ball before was they had a plethora of backs that could get behind that line and pound the rock. It seems like they've lost that, right? You mentioned Damian Harris leaving as well in division, right? So it's like they've lost that. They're just the Patriots are number 4. We don't even have to discuss them. Now it gets interesting, right? Again, the top 3.
Yeah.
Because the best quarterback and the best wide receiver, the best quarterback plays for the Bills.
You were about to say Steph Diggs better than Hill.
And then I backtracked. And the best wide receiver duo and the high flying offense is in Miami.
Yeah.
But now there's a new kid in town who's kind of all around, right? They have the running game with Breece Hall and Michael Carter, and they have the kid in Garrett Wilson. You bring it. Who's number 3 for you? Since we're going up. Who's number 3? Who's the 3rd best offense in this division? I'll tell you. You want to know mine?
Yeah.
Buffalo.
Okay.
For me, it almost has to be, man. Like yes, he's the best quarterback in the division. I don't think it's going to be all that far from Rodgers this year. And outside of Stephon Diggs, who again is a top 5 to 7 wide receiver in this league, they just don't have anything for me. Yeah. They can't run the ball ever. They cannot run the ball. They have no wide receiver 2, no wide receiver 3. Their tight end in Dawson Knox it's okay, but like is Dalton Kincaid going to be the star of the show this year? They just don't have enough outside of their stud quarterback for me to be impressed.
You make a good point. I am going to go with the Jets here.
The disrespect.
I'm going to go with the Jets, man. It's not even disrespect. It's honestly just about chemistry and it being Rodgers' first year in New York. I do agree with your point because it comes down to Allen, arm talent, running ability, super quarterback versus Aaron Rodgers, former MVP, right? With a top running game, not just a running game, but a top running game. And then Garrett Wilson, who is ascending, who is a legitimate wide receiver 1, along with a bunch of other guys that are going to be able to fill in very nicely. It's more or less the fact that I think all 3 of these offenses could end up in top 12-ish area, right? The 3 top offenses in this division. I just think that Buffalo having the chemistry, the continuity of this team being together, barring Stephon Diggs, man, that's a huge question mark. I'm sure they're going to get it figured out. I mean, I would if I was them, but it's not a guarantee. If there's any type of trouble in that situation going into the season, though, I would easily move the Jets above the Buffalo Bills. It's that close for me. But I am going with the Buffalo Bills at number 2, just out of chemistry, honestly, being together, playing longer. Second year with Dorsey for Josh Allen, a second year under the new offensive coordinator. And Josh Allen, he's just got to be better mentally, right? You can't turn the ball over and put your team in these bad situations. So that's what it's going to come down to ultimately. Obviously, Miami at number 1 for me, and it sounds like they're number 1 for you. I don't know. I'll let you diverge on that. Miami is number 1 for me just based off of pure explosion. When Tua was their quarterback, they were the best offense in the NFL,
right?
Even without a running game, right? But I think they get better on the ground this year, but even though they don't need to, they're going to be unstoppable in the air. You talk about bringing teams down to that weather. They're able to run these guys out off the field.
Don't you love that we play this division this year?
Yeah, it sucks, honestly, but it doesn't. It sucks, but it doesn't.
No, it's going to make for great football. That's yeah.
But
exactly.
Nonetheless, I am going with Miami as the number 1, just based off of offensive explosion. But if you ask me which is the more well-rounded offense, it is the New York Jets. They have the most well-rounded offense in the division.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, I have the Bills 3. You have the Bills 2. I agree with you that if Tua is 100%, they're the most high-flying, dangerous, quick, explosive offense, more so than the Jets are.
Yeah.
But what is Tua this year? So I'm going to put out a little parameter here. If Tua's healthy week 1, 100% healthy, I think Miami is the most explosive offense in this division. If there's any type of question mark, it's the Jets. Like if Tua, even if he starts healthy, I'll say this. The Bills are number 3 to me. So when it comes down to these 2 teams, if in week 4 Tua goes down, the Jets are obviously, but more so than the Bills for me than you, the number 1 offense in this division.
Yeah.
So I'll agree with you if he's healthy. If not, I'm riding with the Jets. With that said, let's get into our rankings.
Yeah.
Because I'm excited for this. At number 4, again, let's get this out of the way. Disclaimer, the New England Patriots.
Yeah. Easily.
Just toss them to the side.
Yeah.
At number 3, who is finishing 3rd in the AFC East this year, Scotty? And I will ask you this. Is it possible that these 3 teams could all make the postseason with 3 wild card spots?
Yeah, I think that's a good asterisk to put on these rankings is that all 3 of these teams have a really good chance to make
it in the postseason. Yep.
You know, I'm going to switch it up. I was going to go with the Jets in the number 3 spot.
Stand by it.
I'm going to move them up to number 2 because I do think from a stability standpoint, when I look at the other 2 teams that we're discussing in this situation, they both have question marks. So for me to put teams with question marks ahead of the Jets, I think is a little unfair. I'm going to go with Miami at the number 3 spot, man. And I think the offense is going to be high flying. The defense, they have the big names. They're going to be able to get turnovers. But I think the Jets are going to be just a little bit more well-rounded between the top defense in the division and then the ability to run the football. Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position. While I think the Dolphins, once again, have the most high-flying offense in the division, a lot resides on Tua's health, to your point. But also the run game, lack thereof, I guess you could say. And to that point, I just can't with the defense
third best defense
in the equation.
Right.
I can't put the Dolphins over them. And then, when you talk about between the Dolphins and Buffalo, obviously I have the New York Jets at number 2 for me. I'm going to have Buffalo at number 1. Once again, based off of chemistry, getting some guys back on defense. And ultimately, I think, as we talk through this, there's a little bit of a chip that should be on Josh Allen's shoulders going into this season. He's got something to prove, man. You're right. You got the 3-time MVP. I think it's 3-time MVP for Aaron Rodgers, if not 2-time MVP.
I forget.
I can't remember if he won it back in the day when they won the Super Bowl.
I think,
I know
I think
in the newer era.
Yeah,
but, we'll go with 2 just for factual points. 2-time MVP at least coming into the division. You have Tua threatening down there in Miami. I think Josh Allen has to come out and be on his A game. I do think he ends up with a better season than Aaron Rodgers just because of capabilities, right? It's his talent. It's just the pure talent of Josh Allen. But I think he gets his head right on his shoulder. And I think we finally get that MVP caliber season that we're waiting from Josh Allen. Not to say that he's going to win it, but he's going to be up there in the conversation. But to your point, and to be fair to you, you have talked me into moving the Jets up 1 slot in my rankings. So kudos to you, brother.
I'm a salesman. What can I say?
What do you got?
Number 4, obviously, like I said, we both have New England. And number 3, I have the Dolphins. Even though I think they're going to be in wild card contention at the end of the year, all 3 of these teams could make the postseason. I don't predict that Tua plays 17 games. And that's the difference maker for me. Yeah. I don't think he plays 17 games. I have health concerns about him.
They're not stable.
You obviously do have some concerns about their ability to run the football when they need to. And then defensively, they are, even though they're a very good defense and have a lot of talent, you bring in Jalen Ramsey, have one of the best cornerback duos in the league. We're on the same page where I think they're still the 3rd best defense in this division.
Even with those
so
names.
You add all that together, they're going to win double-digit games. I think each of these teams could be off by 1 win, and maybe the top 2 are tied, but had division, whatever. Yeah. I think Miami comes in 3rd place. At number 2, I had the Buffalo Bills. I'm all in, dude.
I knew where you were going.
I'm all in on the New York Jets. And maybe that is a major, major mistake by me. But I have seen far too many people, and I'm not saying you, but I've seen far too many people on Twitter and social media discount what Aaron Rodgers is at this point of his career and what he can be. Like, dude, last year was a train wreck. No one's arguing that with you.
Yeah.
The year before, and actually, was it the 2 years prior they were in the NFC Championship? Back-to-back year, or 1 year he won the MVP, and remember they lost to San Fran 10-3, whatever the hell it was. Yeah. Like, Aaron Rodgers was just an MVP 2 short years ago. So if you think he's fallen off that Max Kellerman, Tom Brady cliff that he kept waiting for, I don't know what to tell you. Yes, the ending in Green Bay was a lot on Aaron Rodgers' hands.
Yeah.
And we talked a lot about his antics and his comments and throwing people under the bus and the blame game. We talked a lot about how much he was pissing us off last year because that was on him.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he's still a top 5 quarterback in my mind. And you surround him with a top 5 defense in football. You reunite him, whatever, with his old offensive coordinator or quarterback, whatever they have going on in New York. You made him happy by bringing in some of his friends, but you still have all that young, explosive talent with Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and the other running backs. I'm all in on this roster. I think Aaron Rodgers has that MVP type season you alluded to with Josh Allen. I know this sounds crazy because we just talked about Aaron Rodgers come up short a lot in the postseason. I trust Aaron Rodgers more than I trust Josh Allen right now. A lot of people are going to disagree with me. I don't trust Josh Allen enough at all. I know it was over a decade ago, but Aaron Rodgers does have some hardware. And I think with this supporting cast, because I think his supporting cast on both sides of the ball is better than Josh Allen's, I think the Jets will win this division this year. And that trade will pay dividends. Now, am I saying New York is going to the AFC Championship? They're going to be in the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl? No, I'm not saying that at all. But I think New York, just by bringing in Aaron Rodgers, has pushed themselves into that conversation with the Cincinnatis and Kansas Cities and Buffalo of the world in the AFC.
Hey, I think it would be a huge accomplishment for the New York Jets to win that division. So that in itself is you being all in on that team. And to your point, we're going to give you credit for that if it ends up happening and this takes place.
But if it goes the wrong way, I'm one of the
people that is probably 1 foot in, 1 foot out on the Jets. I love the defense. I love Aaron Rodgers in a pocket. I love the weapons around him in another pocket. I got to see how that looks together. Just with Aaron Rodgers,
I feel
personality,
the same way.
All of that with New York. That's what I have to see.
I feel the same way about Buffalo that you do about the Jets.
I think that there's a big boom for the Jets that is realistic. There is a boom for them.
Yeah, I get the talent. Yeah. I understand what Josh Allen is.
When you say trust, that makes it interesting.
I get the Stephon Diggs. You have a top 5 quarterback, a top 5 wide receiver.
Yeah.
You have a possibly a top 5 defensive unit. Who knows? Top 10 for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think they have enough outside of that. It's the same reason that I don't think they've had enough for the last 3 or 4 years. And again, management, you're not doing enough to propel yourselves to that conversation.
At all. Yeah, for them to not go out and get any type of wide receiver help is a little bit of not a little bit. It's a disservice.
You drafted a tight end who might be a backup. Who knows how the depth chart actually plays out?
Yeah.
And you brought in Damian Harris, who wasn't even the best running back on his team last year.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a weird setup over there in Buffalo, man.